Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to another Monday Mindset. It is April 7th. I can't believe it. It's another Monday. Hopefully, you guys had a great weekend. I want to come to you today and talk to you a little bit, get you fired up for Monday, get you fired up for this week, talk to you a little bit about change. There is a lot of change happening. If you are watching the markets, your 401ks have gone to 201ks. They've been cut in half. No, the markets are changing. You have things around the world kind of resetting. Things are changing there. You have obvious changes happening in the insurance space, especially if you're in the Medicare space. There's been a lot of change there. You have AI, so technology is changing rapidly. You have so much uncertainty in the marketplace. And how do you deal with change? And we've been dealing with a lot of change at Reminder Media. The last couple years we have grown, but it's been way slower of growth. Really since probably 2023. So 2021, best year ever. 2022, real estate market and the world started shifting a little bit. It was still an amazing year, not the best year ever. 2023 was like, ooh, we're starting to stall. 2024, ooh, kind of still stalling. 2025 seemed very similar. And we're very correlated to the real estate market because we have a ton of clients in real estate. And if you look at residential real estate, it's kind of gone like this since 2021. Number of home sales, I think it was the lowest point in 30 years. It was lower. Right now, there's lower home sales projected than in 2008. And if anybody remembers 2008, remembers that the crashes all around that time frame, I mean, it's pretty insane where we're at. So there's a ton of change. But how do you, whether you're in an insurance business, a marketing business like me, or whatever business you're in, how do you deal with change? And what are you learning through the change? And I think it was John Maxwell who said, change is inevitable, growth is optional. So change is inevitable, but growth is optional. And, the hardest part for me about growing Reminder Media that I would not have thought would be the hard part is when you're good, but you're not great. And you are making money, but you believe there's so much more potential. And what do you do in the moment when you have a process, whether it's an operational process, a sales process, where it's good, but you believe it could be better, where you have a person on your team. They're good, but they're not great. They could be better. You have a product that's good, but it's not great. You can improve upon it. But all of those things require you to make change. And change is uncomfortable. And we always know the enemy of progress is comfort. So as soon as you get comfortable, you're probably not progressing. I don't know. It's just the nature, or it seems to be the nature of life. But it's like, do you choose to disrupt good to go to great? Especially, here's the difficult part about it all, especially when you're not positive that what you're thinking is going to take it to great. So you could disrupt good for your product, your person, your process, and it actually get worse. And you'd be like, everybody's looking at you then as a failed leader going, why would you disrupt something that was working? Don't break it if it's not, or don't fix it if it's working. And we have a tendency to get on things that maybe we shouldn't. And this has been one of the biggest struggles for me as a leader at Reminder Media is when to disrupt something to take it from good to great. And you guys know I've shared the story before. I had a bunch of people quit on me over a 2-week period. And they were on my sales team and related to sales. And it was because we were, again, flatlining. We were still growing. We were making money. I forget if we were like 30 million, 40 million at this point as a company. Great company, making money, doing well. But it felt like we were just lacking in potential of closing the leads, lacking in potential of growing the sales floor, lacking in potential that we should be a way bigger company, but we're not excellent in what we do. And so I had a choice at that moment to go, hey, I'm going to accept this. And what you accept is what you get, not what you expect. What you accept is what you will get. I can accept this and continue and be happy with the winning that I'm having, and I can grow slowly over time. Or I can go, no, I'm not going to accept this. And you have to actually have 4 hours of phone time a day, or 3 closes, or talk to 200 people, or call 200 people. That's an excellent standard, and that's what I'm going to accept. And we're going to raise the bar. Well, we chose to disrupt it and get in there and raise the bar, and a bunch of people quit. It was like 14 plus people quit over a 2-week time period because they didn't like that new standard. And that, when I share that story, it's nice now because we've grown past that. It was a great decision. We ended up winning. In the moment, it was terrifying. And also, looking back, it was such a failure in leadership on my part that I had to go through a point of raising the standard, changing the environment, that I had accepted such an environment that lulled people in, that made people believe this is what's acceptable. And I failed as a leader that when I changed it, they no longer wanted to be there because that's not what I had promised to them, because I had promised to them what I was showing them, which is this mediocre standard. And I had to go through that storm to get to the other side. Now that was worth it. And I have many, many things over my time here that I have found that it's like, oh man, it's good, but it's not great. So I'll give you the latest one. Our sales process. Our sales process has been a one-call close mentality process. It normally takes about 2 calls for the majority. I would say 40% is one-call close, but majority 2-call close. But we go in with a 1-call close mentality, and we're calling on agents. We probably called on you guys. I've seen chats in different groups on insurance where it's just like, these Reminder Media people will not stop calling. That has been kind of our process, and it's done really well for us, producing tens of thousands of deals a year, has grown the organization. It works. But what we've seen is it is extremely difficult to recruit and hire salespeople that will embrace a 1-call close, that will call 200 people a day, that will stay for longer and do that for longer than 2 years. And that's a limiter to growing of our company. It's very hard to recruit those salespeople, get them trained up. By the time you get them trained up, they're starting to get burnt out. And it's this constant churn that you feel in this business. At the same time, do you think people are liking more cold calls today? Or do you think people are preferring less cold calls today? Do you think people want to buy on the first call more today than they did 10 years ago? Or do you think they want to buy on the first call less? We're up against this societal change of, hey, people don't want as many cold calls anymore. They also do not want to buy on the first call nearly as much as they did. We see that in closing percentages. We just see that in answer rates. Technology is changing. So it's working. We're still closing 20,000+ new clients a year through this methodology. So I have a choice again in my business. Change is inevitable. The times are changing. Technology's changing. People's preferences are changing. How I need to communicate needs to change. But growth is optional. So I can disrupt the sales process I have that's bringing in me 20,000+ clients a year, that's growing my organization, and go, you know what? I'm going to test some new things, and I'm going to change this sales model to do a better sales model, which I don't know if it will work. But I think it will work because I think people prefer a 2-call close. I think people prefer a demo-based close. I think they prefer to see what they're going to buy. I just feel like they're going to prefer that. And I think in the long term, it's going to be better for the organization because not only is the consumer going to have a better experience, that they're going to be able to see what they're buying, they're going to be able to have a call that sets up an appointment with them to where now when they get on that appointment, if you get on an appointment with a company, what do you expect to happen? You expect to be sold, so the expectation is set right. You get to see the product you're buying so you know what you're committing to, but at the same time, my sales reps has a better quality of life because they're able to call the set appointments, then come in and people can run those appointments. And it's very, this is just a tangential thought, but one of the keys to business, it is very hard for people to do more than one thing well. So the more you can Henry Ford your business, the more you can conveyor belt, assembly line your business where people do one thing and they do it all day long and they become the best at it. So for example, in this sales process, having people just set demos, they can become assassins, the best in the world at setting demos. And people just presenting demos, just closing on demos, they can become the best presenters in the world because it's one thing versus half your time trying to set, half your time trying to present. So if your business economically allows you to break people's tasks down to one thing, you will achieve so much better returns. Sometimes your business doesn't economically allow you to do that, but if it does, you should. But anyway, so it's going to be a better experience, I think, for my rep, but I don't know. I don't know if we'll close model. Am I actually just giving up good to go to worse, or am I giving up good to go to great? And we're in the heart of that right now. We've been experiencing that probably for the past 6-7 months. We've been changing our sales model to be more demo based. And anything in business, if you look back at my couple Monday Mindsets ago, I talked about my methodology of running business, which is act, track, pivot. Take action, massive action, track your results because you can't improve what you don't measure, and then pivot, iterate on it. So that's what we've been doing. And guess what? Here's what always happens in a shift, for at least me. Maybe not for you guys, but for me. It's a hockey stick. And what happens before you go up? You go down. Like when you change that person out that you know you need to change because they're good but they're not great, you got to go get somebody else. Guess what? You're going to go down because the 40% that they were bringing to the table is no longer there. So they were giving 40, 50, 60, 70% even, and now you've taken that 70% away because you want to go get somebody that can give 100%, 120%. You're going to dip. In the dip is where most people lose. Because in the dip, they start believing they made the wrong decision. In the dip, they turn the boats around, and instead of exploring the new land that they're not committed to, they're not burning the ships, they turn around and they go back the other way. Do not retreat in the dip. Do not retreat. You will always dip. And the example I give to my sales team when I'm trying to teach them a new script or trying to teach a new process to anybody is like, hey, have you ever played golf? And I'm a terrible golfer. I just am. I don't have enough time to get out there and get good at it. And you play golf and you get okay at it. And then you go get a lesson. And the professional golf trainer, this coach, comes in and tells you you're swinging the wrong way. That they adjust your swing, how you're holding it or how you're following through, all those good things. And guess what? Your game gets a little bit worse. You start hitting worse than you were most of the time because they're changing from something that you have gotten comfortable doing that is producing a certain result, changing it, so now your brain has to adjust, gets uncomfortable, you get worse to get better. You usually go back before you go forward, and most people at the first sign of adversity, at the first sign of regression, they give in and they go, no, I was wrong, never mind, go back. So think about this in the standards that you hold to your team. The first time you get complaints and the sales team's not performing and they're not hitting the numbers and you're like, gosh, did I make the wrong decision? Hold, take massive action, track your results, and just pivot, just iterate a little bit on what you're trying to do, where most people give in, and I promise you it will pay off. But the hardest thing in business, I think, is realizing that I have to change what was working to make it better, whether it's a person, a process, a product. I have to change, and I don't like change, especially when I get comfortable. And success is a drug that paralyzes. It really is. Success is a drug that paralyzes. When you get a little bit successful, you get fearful. It's like the NFL team. They get ahead, and what do they immediately start doing? They start getting away from the game that got them ahead. They start getting away from playing offense, and they play conservatively. They play defensively, and lo and behold, that other team who has nothing to lose and everything to gain ends up coming back and beating them because success tends to make us scared because we try to hold on and protect everything instead of letting it go. And this is why I think the greatest entrepreneurs, and I think it was Grant Cardone who said this, they kind of play in this go broke mentality. As soon as they get success, they put it all out there in the marketplace, so they're broke again, to basically put them at a state where they have to perform 24/7. You see this with Elon Musk, whether he meant to do it or not. I have no idea because I don't know the guy, but it is pretty amazing. He, sells his company, then puts all the profits into Tesla and SpaceX. And, constantly he's putting himself out there. Look what he did with Twitter. He goes into Twitter and he cuts 80% of the staff, and everybody's going, what are you doing? This will never work. He could have gone, you know what? You're right. I went too far. But no, he just kept going and he held, and it ended up winning. You look at someone like a Donald Trump and you go, look at the guy and how he held, and look at what happened on the other side. And I tend to find that the greatest entrepreneurs, the greatest business people, the people who are successful in their stories on all sides of the table, they just did not give in, and they held. And in change, or they embraced change because they knew change was what had to happen in order to get to that next level. And then I try to think to myself, well, what causes a Luke Acree or anybody to be willing to go through changing their whole sales model because I'm making good money, I'm doing well, to try to go to the next level? And that's where your purpose comes into play, and going, you'll never embrace change, you'll never go for growth if you do not have a big purpose, if you do not have impact that you're trying to create or a goal that you're trying to reach that is bigger than what you are successfully doing today. So if you find yourself in paralysis, if you find yourself pulling back, if you find yourself not embracing change, I promise you it's because that goal that you have is really, really small at this point in your life. And you need to make that goal bigger, and you need to get yourself outside of yourself and going, hey, what type of impact can I make if I actually take this to the next level? And that is what the greatest entrepreneurs do. So there you have it. I just wanted to encourage you that change is inevitable, but growth is optional. So make sure you're growing and go from good to great. And sometimes you go from good to great. You got to go from good to worse to great. That's usually the line that you follow. I hope not. I hope you go from good to great and it's just magical unicorns for you, rainbows. But 9 times out of 10 for me, it's been good to a little bit worse to greater, because in that change is where I make the progress. So get out there and win for your families, win for your friends, win for your clients. Wish I could see you guys' comments, but my Facebook Live doesn't work. I got to figure out this StreamYard thing, so I'm going to call you, Joe, on that. Appreciate you guys. Let's get out there and win this week. Happy Monday.